Welcome to the Moonrise Human Design YouTube channel. We are so thrilled that you found your way here, whatever signs and synchronicities and nudges brought you to listen to this video right now. We're so grateful to be connected.
This video is all about the emotional authority. So you can expect to hear what an authority is, what the emotional authority is, ways to work with it, how it can implement in your life, and just a lot of information about it. This community Moonrise is a place for you to learn about human design, to educate, to contemplate, to explore it. We believe human design is a way to connect and love yourself, and a way to connect, understand, and love others. My name is Sam Fotenhauer. I'm an embodiment coach, intuitive, and human design reader based in Austin, Texas.
My name is Nadia Last. I'm a therapist and I love incorporating human design and many other modalities into my therapy practice. And I'm based in the Bay Area, California. And together we created Moonrise. There's a ton of different ways that you can get involved in learning about the system. This is a lifelong study for introspection, should you choose to be initiated into its wisdom. And we've created a lot of opportunities to learn more about yourself and the people in your life. We have personalized PDF guidebooks on our website, moonrisecommunity.com. You could actually get a reading with either Sam or I. We love connecting with people through readings. We've done hundreds of them over the past several years. We also have a really in-depth training called Human Design Training, where we teach aspiring readers and people who are just interested in this system more about all of the different nuances and specificities. There's both a live and a self-paced version, and we would love to connect with you there.
All right, so let's get into this video. So the first thing is, what is an authority? So in human design, you will hear people say a lot, follow your strategy and authority. It's like the number one thing to do to live in alignment with your design, to embody this truth, authenticity, and just all the gifts. Your strategy comes from your energy type. Go back to watch those videos. Your authority, we're going to talk about here. What is an authority, Nadia?
Your authority in human design is the unique part of your body that you can access based on your chart that tells you where you can make decisions that are in alignment for you. There is something very mystical about human design in that I believe we are each imbued with a unique potential path. And there's something about dropping into the wisdom of your body, not your mind, but your body, that allows you to be more just in the flow of life. More magical things are able to happen, more divine alignment. And we just encourage you to experiment with that.
It tells you what decisions are correct for you. And your authority can be big or small. Your authority might help you with smaller things. Like generally, I'm gonna eat less dairy. That's something my authority has been helping me with. Or I'm gonna make this purchase, or bigger things like I think it's time to exit this relationship or to apply for this job. So it's a very important and useful tool. It's foundational. And in human design, we always say strategy and authority comes first. So before you can absolutely learn about everything in your chart, you can do that through our guidebooks. We get into a lot of details there, or through readings. But if you aren't familiar and aren't practicing your strategy and authority, it doesn't really matter. So let's talk about the emotional authority, which I feel very strongly about because I'm an emotional authority. I'm an emotional manifesting generator. High level, Nadia, what's the emotional authority?
The emotional authority is basically, and this can be kind of sticky for some people to hear, but it's really beautiful when you learn about it and learn to lean into it, is that truth does not exist for you in the present moment. You need to wait, you need to feel into things, especially big decisions in your life, over time. If you make an instantaneous decision, you might regret it because you're constantly riding these highs and lows of your own emotional experience. There's a lot for you to feel into, to know what is truly you outside of the moods that you're consistently feeling.
Clarity comes in time. And so at a baseline, sleep on it. I have a personal rule for myself that if it's going to be a commitment of more than 3 hours of time, or it's going to cost more than a certain amount, for me it's $100, then I always have to sleep on it. I don't care if it's 24-hour sale. I don't care if it's like whatever it is, a great trip that sounds really fun, or a weekend or an afternoon with somebody, I can sleep on it. And for bigger decisions, or not, sometimes even smaller decisions, I might need more time than that. And so this is helping you clarify. And the reason this works is because anybody with an emotional authority has what we call an emotional wave. And you also have a defined solar plexus for anyone who's studying that. We're not going to focus on that, but that's where this originates in your chart. So the emotional wave basically means that your emotions are always going up and down at some level. You may experience melancholy, desire, whatever it is. It's like you wake up some days feeling high. It's like the sun is shining inside and you're just ready to go. Everything is great. Doesn't really matter what the circumstances. You're feeling really good. It's not about external. It's internal. And then there are some days where you wake up feeling like it's raining inside. And you're melancholic and everything is a little bit lower. And when you start to recognize that this is just how you are, it's almost like you have a radio and someone else is a DJ, and some days you're playing pop happy songs and some days it's more moody songs. And it's not necessarily because anyone caused it. It was an important unlock for me, that it wasn't because my partner didn't empty the dishwasher that I'm feeling melancholy. This is just how I'm feeling. Now, there may be times where you do feel something because of someone else's actions, but you'll start to discern that. And so the idea being, because you have these emotional up and downs, and some days you'll wake up in the middle and it might feel more neutral, but you always are on somewhere on this wave. We want to give time to go through a high and a low, or at least to move through somewhat of the wave so you can discern, what do I really want with this decision? Or am I being influenced by an emotional high? Or an emotional low?
I like to call emotional decision makers, which, by the way, half the population has emotional decision making. Yeah. So it's so important that people learn about themselves so that they can understand. If you are an emotional decision maker, you are the weather maker. You create these weather systems within yourself. The rest of us, we're feeling the emotions from you, myself included. And so just recognize that there's this ability that you have when you walk into a room to impact what people are feeling. And you might not be as consciously aware that you are in a specific mood, but then all of a sudden you're feeling people react to you and you're like, whoa, like I didn't even realize that I might have been a little grumpier this day, or I might have been a little bit more euphoric this day.
I'm the only person with an emotional authority in my family, which statistically is surprising. There's like 9 of us, including spouses, and I'm the only one. And I will notice it sometimes. I'm like, why did everyone suddenly get kind of frustrated, annoyed, and crabby? And then now that I know human design, it's like, I'm frustrated, annoyed, and crabby. It's me, I'm the problem. And it's not necessarily a problem. It's just useful to voice it, useful to understand where you are. And so you can support yourself in that need. Or you could say it, hey, I'm feeling a little annoyed or like irritated today. So there's nothing wrong. Like, you're not doing anything wrong. That's a really helpful thing to say to friends, to roommates, to partners. If you're an emotional person, you wake up just feeling sad, you can just voice it. You don't need to apologize. And you don't need to change the emotion. But naming it can help so other people don't make stories about it. Other people don't view it as, oh, she's mad at me. She's frustrated at me. It names it, and that can diffuse the energy around it.
What if someone is listening to this, they found out that they have emotional decision making, and they're like, I don't feel emotional at all, or I don't quite know what I'm feeling? What are some tips that you have?
Yeah, so the first thing I would say is, if you don't feel emotional at all, first off, human design is a tool for exploration, but if you don't relate with having big emotions, then that's great, no problem. However, I will say that I do encounter a lot of people who don't feel like they're emotional, and they're actually somewhat disconnected from their emotions. And so the first place I would start is with asking yourself, how am I feeling? At least once a day. Ideally, like a few times a day, like before every meal. For instance, you'd pause for a minute, you would take 5 deep breaths, then you say, how am I feeling? And you talk to yourself as if you're developing a relationship with somebody else. Your relationship with your emotions, I call it in my embodiment practice, your emotional body, is like your relationship with anyone else. So if you haven't asked your neighbor how they're doing for 25 years, and then you start asking them, they're probably not going to give you a lot of information. You're going to have to keep asking them. And then after a month or two, they might start to say, you know what? And they'll tell you about your day. Same with your emotional body. So if you have never inquired how you're feeling or checked in with your body, you're likely to not get a ton of information right off the bat, but keep going. And you keep asking, how am I feeling? And then you'll start to notice things. Oh, my stomach's clenched. Or I'm feeling excited. You can print out an emotions wheel. Just Google emotions wheel, and there's a ton of options, and you can look at that for ideas to help you articulate and develop the vocabulary. And you'll start to notice, like, I'm feeling irritated. I'm feeling hungry. I'm feeling, body sensations or emotions, hopeful. And as you continue that inquiry, you're going to get a lot more clarity around your emotions. And that is going to help you identify how your emotions might be playing out in fights, in decision making, in shutting off to people, in connection, in ways that you weren't aware of.
So well said, Sam. And I think another point of inquiry is just to ask yourself, how were emotions treated in my family of origin? Yes. How were they treated in my school? A lot of our society conditions us to bring big emotions or challenging emotions. We don't believe that there are good or bad emotions. In fact, all emotions are just sort of this mechanical process with information. There's so much information in our feeling states. But these more challenging emotions or big emotions might have been met with, go to your room, or that's not okay. And so just get curious with yourself. If you sort of would describe yourself as not emotional, learning about your emotional decision making, just get curious about where might that emotional body been sort of stuffed down.
Yeah, that's such a good point, Nadia. You know, most adults were not taught how to work with emotions, and I do think working with emotions is a skill that needs to be practiced and explored. And we're actively taught to ignore certain emotions. Maybe there wasn't space in your household to express yourself, or when you did, you got in trouble. Or maybe you witnessed adults who weren't very regulated in their emotions, and that may have taught you stories about the right way to have emotions or made you uncomfortable. Having emotions can be intense. I think emotional authority, and I'm a highly emotional person, can be a very intense experience, and it needs support so it doesn't feel overwhelming. And it takes practice, but it's possible to get there. And then it's really wonderful because having an emotional authority is incredible. I love emotion. I love having it because I think when you have an emotional authority, we've talked about some of the downsides of it, but you bring this incredible color to life. Like, emotional authorities have this immense potential for vibrancy and to really experience the fullness. I firmly believe that a huge part of our purpose on earth is to experience the whole range of emotions. And so emotional authorities have that gift to really bring, it's almost like turning the TV up to HD. Let's make this a little bit brighter. And when when you're on emotional high, you can walk into a room and shift the energy of the room with that high. And how amazing is that? And with the low, and that's beautiful too. So it's not something to be afraid of, but it is something to be worked with so it doesn't control your life, it supports your life.
Absolutely. That you learn to ride the wave, that you learn to surf with the wave. And I was just thinking as you were talking, I was like, imagine if we just said, I only do things on days that are sunny. On days that are rainy, I just sit in one place in my house and I don't do anything. And that's the equivalent of what a stunted emotional experience can feel like. And there are beautiful rainy day activities that you can do. And this is an analogy, but truly when you feel this inner melancholy, to really enjoy that feeling, listen to sad music from high school that you haven't listened to in a long time. Get really into this. There's so much creativity that is awakened in our ability to be with emotions. All of our world's great art form moves us emotionally in some way. So recognizing your emotional wave and being in that creative process, it will make you a more passionate person, which you can absolutely feel from Samantha.
Your vibrancy is directly related to your ability to hold rainy days. They go hand in hand. And exactly what Nadia says, I encourage for anyone on a low, give yourself space. Maybe that is a time when you don't go to a huge party where you have to feel really social. Maybe instead you make it a little more insular or do things that are supportive. But allow that, because there's nothing wrong with big emotions and there's nothing wrong with negative emotions. They only become a problem when they're exploding out of you in a way that can be hurtful. I've definitely had my fair share of tantrums in my life. And it is in those times, that's what we call unregulated. We have these big unregulated explosions, and that can undermine our relationship with our emotions. That happens when they're ignored. That's in part of why that happened. Now, there's another thing I wanted to talk about, which is timing. So the cool thing about the emotional wave is it helps you align with the correct timing for you. I actually have a story that I don't think that you know. So we are right here. I'm with Nadia. We're filming all this amazing human design content. But I wanted to do this over 3 years ago. And I felt this, I'm a manifesting generator. I have this sacral feeling. So I've had this sacral response, this yes of I want to create videos and I want to create them for free. I couldn't find any long form videos about the energy types, about the authorities, and I really wanted that to be out there. But I didn't weight my authority, and I knew I wasn't because I was on such a high that I just wanted to run with it. So I reached out to a professional videographer and started the process. We had gone all the way to contract and pricing and negotiation, and it had been a week, and every day I knew it's not the right timing. It's not quite right yet. You need more time with this material. Over the last 3 years, I've had so much more time to integrate this material, and it wasn't right time. And then finally I just had to tell him, I had to own up, I went too fast, and it actually isn't time yet, and this isn't the best use of my resources, and I'm sorry, but I need to back out of this. Wow. And now we're here over 3 years later, and the time is absolutely right, and this is way better to be creating this with Nadia and creating this at this time. And so had I waited, and luckily I eventually felt it, it says it might be right for you, it's just not right yet. And so you might have to let things go, and you'll be surprised at the way they come back.
Yes. And what you're waiting for that's such a cool story, Sam. I love knowing that. And just like the synchronicity of being here recording this now, and the right timing of this. I hope everyone can feel the infusion of that energy. But what you're waiting for as an emotional authority is not a high, not a low, not emotions. You're waiting for neutrality. And so on the other side of this sort of storm, think of it like a summer thunderstorm internally. And on the other side of these big passionate waves, these undulating waves of experience and emotion within you, you'll find this neutral clarity. And if you're not in a feeling state anymore, that's how you know, okay, I felt all that there is to feel around this. Sometimes it can take weeks, sometimes a day, sometimes a few months, sometimes years in this case. But that's how you're connected to the timing is, wow, there's not a ton of feeling that's swaying me one way or another. It's settled, and I feel this clarity and neutrality to move forward.
That's so good. And this is a good way, like that grounding is what you're looking for. So, every energy type could have an emotional authority except reflectors. So you can be emotional manifesting generator, emotional generator, manifester, or projector. But how it looks is a little bit different. So for a manifesting generator or generator, you will always have this like sacral response, this gut feeling. So you'll see something, get super excited, and then it's like, okay, now pause. Like note that feeling, you can write it down. And it's so important because so many times I've jumped too early. When I took the pause, I realized I was actually just on like a high that day. And I actually was just so excited for the feeling that I wanted to like make it all happen before it went away. And I wanted to jump on it because I was afraid it might.
It's sunny now. It'll never be sunny again.
Yeah, that's not a grounded feeling. Like that's a frenetic, kind of chaotic feeling. So pausing. If it's still right, it'll feel right again tomorrow. It'll feel right again next week. And it'll feel more sturdy within you. For a manifestor, look at these urges and inspirations. Again, this can be really hard for manifestors and manifesting generators because we move so fast to wait and we'll just want to jump. But manifestors, you get that urge, pause, like sleep on it, and then move forward. For a projector, you're waiting just to get to that grounded feeling.
Absolutely. And manifestors, I want to add one more because there's not a lot of information that pairs both the authority and the energy type together. So as a manifestor with emotional authority, if there's something that you're feeling the urge to do contained within that day, and you don't necessarily have to, it's when you're making a decision that you're trying to predict what your mood will be in 2 weeks from now, a month from now, a year from now.
Great.
It's like really clicking into a long-term decision, and that's when you need to wait to recognize I'm in a particular mood right now, and that's going to shift many, many times. So what will I be mostly in the mood to do over long periods of time? For instance, filming these videos. It's a lot of investment for you, Sam. And you're not always in the mood to film content, but I would say most of the time, you're excited to build this business, and that's the clarity that's emerged over time for you.
Yes, that's such a great point. I love that. Like if it's right now, then it's a lot less important. Same with the like 3 hours like price point metric I have. Like I can't have an emotional authority go to the grocery store. Like I just need to pick it out. But if I go to a store and I'm considering buying like a pretty expensive dress and I hadn't yet been like, okay, I'm looking for an orange dress of this cut at this price point. This is just totally spontaneous. Then I should wait. And that creates that because I'm going to be wearing that at a later time.
Love. Yeah. And let's talk about the emotional projector as well. Emotional projectors, and we have a video on each of the energy types that we encourage you to go and watch if you're interested in this. But being an emotional projector, I would say the energy of that is to really recognize like what invitations feel correct for you over time. And so not rushing for all of the energy types that have emotional authority. If you're being rushed and pressured to make a decision right now, hey, can you come on this trip? I need to know in the next hour.
Yeah.
That might feel like it's an automatic no for you. And I want to empower people with emotional decision making. Our world isn't always set up for you to really feel into things. Ask for what you need, which usually comes in the form of, hey, can I sleep on it? Can I let you know tomorrow? In our business all the time, I'll be like, hey, Sam, I'm going to give you a few things to respond to because she's an MG. You can learn about that in the MG video. And then you don't need to tell me right now. In fact, I'd prefer if you tell me tomorrow so that you can feel into it. If not, another week or 2 weeks. I'm planting seeds with her so that she can feel into what has the staying power.
Which is a great to our next point, ways to love and emotional authority. Give them that space. My family has started doing that for me.
Wow.
And it's so amazing because my parents are both splenic projectors, which is a different type. They move quickly. And everyone else in my family has the design to make quick decisions, and they'll give me space. And I know sometimes it can be challenging. Sometimes they'll say, okay, I'm going to give you a week. And then if you still don't know, I'm going to go, and then you can join or not. And I so appreciate that space because I've had times last summer I was on a 4-month road trip and I wouldn't know or feel into it until like the day or two before. And so I needed that space. So one way to love is just to see what kind of space would support that person, or just automatically have the plan of like, I'm going to give you a day and at a minimum, and not take it personally if they're not ready to commit, and not be annoyed or frustrated, because most things we do have that time.
Absolutely. Is there anything else that you would say about an emotional authority?
There's so much I would say, but I will.
And if you're curious to learn more,
wait.
maybe join our training.
Yeah. We talk about this in depth in human design training. We also talk about it on the podcast. So visit those resources. If you love human design, really consider human design training. This is a very rich system and it needs the space, and that offering really provides that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.